you both called for the governor of Michigan to step down because of this water crisis. Do you agree with him?
I generally do, simply because I believe there was some corruption involved, and whether he gets prosecuted or not, I think it's definitely a subject that clearly shows that he's not fit to lead that state.
Do you agree?
Oh, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly, so, yeah.
Right, and let's wrap up with the show with Trump's immigration plan. We've talked before on it, though. Is there a resemblance to the migrant crisis in Europe? Because we have the migrants coming into Europe kicking them out, sending them back to Turkey, Greece is. So is there like an overlapping of Trump's ideas and what Europe is doing?
So there is a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment in particular as some of these right-wing groups kind of arise, and Trump feeds to the American version of that, as, say, UKIP does in the United Kingdom with Nigel Farage, and I think there's a similar outcome in which you'll see. In the UK elections in 2015, UKIP received 20% of the vote, yet because of the first-past-the-post single-member district system in the United Kingdom, which the United States is a single-member district system, that ideology absolutely got hammered. They only got 2 seats in Parliament. It really does parallel the US in the sense that the odds are that even if there's so many Americans that may agree with Trump, he's going to, and the Republican Party will get trounced, as some of this ideology really doesn't stand up in the general election. So there's lots of parallels there.
Well, part of the problem, is that half of America, doesn't have that large of a problem with immigration. And you see it's more like a Republican, admitted problem where, they're angry about the immigration system and, they feel it's related to terrorism and they want to stop, a lot of these people coming in and taking, what they see as taking American jobs and, causing, indigents to come into hospitals that is only costing more money to the Americans in healthcare. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars, and I think when you look at the right wing, Republicans, that's a major hot button issue for them. So when they see someone like Trump coming in and making all these dramatic statements about building a wall and exporting all these immigrants, which seems ludicrous to a lot of people in the Democratic Party and even some people in the Republican Party, your moderates, they think it's outrageous. But you're fueling a lot of these groups that he is representing a sector of the population that does want to deport some of these immigrants, whether it's fair or unfair. So you're seeing that especially in the Mexican situation and not letting the Muslims in and just really radical plans.
So are some of these people supporting Trump's immigration plan? Are they thinking about what happened in Paris could happen in America?
A lot of it stems out of fear, in particular. After the Paris attacks in 2015, there was a lot of anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim sentiment that came and arose from that, and Trump kind of fed to that base. He played off of people's fears and emotions, like after the Paris attacks, where people, particularly after a terrorist attack, a lot of people don't know where to go, and surprisingly, considering it's the same recurring pattern, but somehow they don't know where, they don't know the next step, they think some kind of magical Armageddon might happen, and somebody like Trump, with all the fear-mongering statements that he can make and discriminating against groups that are somehow responsible and evil, will solve all your problems. So that feeds right to Trump. If you saw, his numbers went up substantially afterwards.
Well, you could argue that is a huge racism issue, not to mention unconstitutional. I mean, you're literally nailing an entire group of people, like Muslims, as being terrorists. You're equating the two. That's the definition of racism and profiling. I mean, that's what has angered so much of the population about his stances, is that it's not only racist, but it's unconstitutional. You can't refuse, under the current Constitution, to deny these people to immigrate into our country when they haven't been proven to be, criminals or they're not doing anything wrong, to refuse an entire race of people, then you're going to refuse Jews from Israel, or, you're going to claim they're terrorists. I mean, statistically speaking, you're not going to have any more Muslims that are terrorists than Jews.
Right, and we have to remember that these were migrants that were smuggled in to commit these attacks in Paris. I want to say thank you to both of you for joining us here on Talk Politics Live.
Thank you.
From
Thank
Washington.
you.
All right, I'm going to have more of the results coming up from these caucuses across the country. That's up next on Newsroom with Lorenzo. That's up next.